Just ahead on American Black Journal, we are taking a look at Black empowerment through the creation of social networks. It's the focus of a new PBS documentary, Making Black America, from Dr. Henry Louis Gates, Jr. Plus, we'll examine the contributions of Black fraternities and sororities from a Detroit perspective. Stay where you are. American Black Journal starts right now.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm your host, Stephen Henderson. Noted historian and storyteller Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. has a new documentary series that's launching on PBS. It's titled Making Black America Through the Grapevine. Four-part series explores the vast social networks, associations, and organizations created by and for African Americans as a means of empowerment in the face of racial segregation. Making Black America can be seen right here on Detroit Public Television every Tuesday night in October at 9 p.m. Here's a preview, followed by my conversation with the series producer and director, Stacey Holman.
For centuries, starting with slavery, followed by Jim Crow segregation, racism has been a fault line running straight through the American experience. Race has shaped where Black people could live, how they saw themselves, and what kind of future they could hope to achieve. But remarkably, Black people survived the strictures of racism by creating their own world, a sepia world, a nexus of formal and informal spaces by us and for us.
When we talk about Black social networks, what we're really talking about is how Black people create spaces where we can be seen and where we can be heard by each other.
They're a place to, celebrate. That often gets overlooked. When we talk about Black life, particularly in America, it's like, sometimes you just want to celebrate how dope it is to be Black. And that's important, particularly in a country that the best you can say is misunderstands Black people. And the most damning thing you can say is doesn't care about Black people.
Generation after generation, these organizations, institutions, and social networks have been a shelter in the storm, a place from which to demand that America confront its failures and finally live up to its ideals.
Stacey Holman, welcome back to American Black Journal.
Thank you for having me back. This is great, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's great to have you here to talk about this latest work. Tell us about Making Black America.
Well, this is obviously the brainchild of Professor Henry Louis Gates, who I'll defer to as Skip probably throughout the actual interview. And he is really interested. This is coming off the heels of the Black church, and he's really interested in social networks, organizations, particularly secret societies. And he starts with, the Prince Hall Masons. Mm-hmm. And this is looking at, the spaces, the places, the people, the organizations that African Americans or Black people, people will get that when they see the series, that we created for us, by us, behind the veil, outside of the white gaze, where we could just, let down our, our hair. We could just take off that mask. We could just be.
So it strikes me that a lot of the institutions that we're talking about here, they were not Black by intention, but by exclusion, right? We were left out of lots of things for a lot of time and had to create our own spaces. But in modern America, I think they are Black by intention. We preserve these spaces, we celebrate them, and we build them up because they have value and importance far beyond the exclusion that forced us to create them in the first place. And sometimes that's hard for people who aren't part of our community to understand. But I think for all of us, it's crystal clear, right? We need these spaces.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's, we need that time to kind of step aside. And I think you talk about, networks of today, I mean, and spaces and even creative outlets, look at hip hop. I mean, that was created, by us. Also too, you look at Black Lives Matter, that was built, by, a group of women, founded by a group of women out of a need. And then even going back during the Depression, rent parties, this economic, informal economy that Black people created. Because in some instances, it wasn't, actually, open to us. But in the cases of hair products, we needed to have, Black women need their hair done. So, that was built out of a need.
Yeah.
We will ever need our hair done. So, so I think it was really, so it's just, really just finding that, creating those spaces and those places that are meeting the need of that particular community.
Yeah.
That's not always a response, as you said.
So I also always think that resilience plays such a incredibly important part of Black existence and Black history, and here again, so many of these institutions are about that resilience, about again preserving ourselves, preserving our culture. In the face of a society that doesn't always allow us really to do that in other spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Black joy is a really big theme throughout this, and I think just the agency that we have needs to be celebrated. And also too, outside of struggle, it's not always, we're not always talking about, or not always living in it. We're resilient because we step outside of it sometimes. We're resilient because we go to, play a game of Midwest, we're resilient because we go to, our book club because we can talk about, this book that moved us, we're resilient because, we have creative spaces, whether it's reading a book by Toni Morrison to kind of take us, through this world and take us through a lens. So these feed into that resilience. And just as the Black church, these also speak to that resilience.
Yeah. So tell me about some of your favorite parts of the series.
Oh my gosh, that is like, what's your favorite child? No, I mean, there's a lot of great moments. I'll kind of go through the different hours, but for hour one, we have in the literary in quotes setting, Andre Holland reading the words of French poet Les Senels, one of the earliest books written by a Black person. And yes, Black people spoke French fluently.
Yeah.
But just the Black love sequence, just really just, for me, that section always just pulls at my heartstrings. Also, I think that in Black women, I think, are dominating hour two. I mean, we have Magdalena Walker with, the Penny Savings Bank. That was just empowering. Yeah. And, we also do a nod to, another thing is the nod that we do to Ebony magazine. And I mean, most of us know from generation, we used to get the big, poster size. So Ebony magazine and, the tiny size of Jet. Yeah. But that was just so nostalgic for me. And then just, the last hour, I think there's just, a lot of gems in there as well. But definitely, looking at the rent parties, but looking at hip hop, and even just our last point about just Black joy.
Yeah. That's funny you mentioned Ebony. You think about in this day and age, what it costs to print that thing in full color at that size and then put it in the mail and send it all across the country.
Exactly.
Do it.
I don't know. It is.
So I wonder what you want people to take away from all this work, both Black people and other populations who don't share our experience in history.
Well, for Black people, I just want them to just smile. I just want us to just kind of take a moment and just sit back and just reflect. I want them to feel encouraged and empowered. I think it's definitely going to be a nostalgia moment for a lot, but it's also going to be probably a learning moment for another generation that may not know about some of these spaces. I know for me, there's a lot that I didn't learn, but I just want people just to kind of savor that, it's, joys in the midst, in the midst of the struggle, joys in the midst of the suffering. For those who are outside of our circle, I think it's just a testimony of that Black folks existed, to that point of struggle. It wasn't always about, the man oppressing us. It wasn't always about, we had a life, we had joy, the African-American experience is huge. And it's not just that narrow space. It's not just that one note, but it crosses everything from politics to social. Obviously, we know about religion, financial, that, we had agency. We continue to have agency. So I think it'll be a moment of just showing that Black excellence lives in so many spaces.
Yeah. And it's I think it's an important point that we need people outside our community to watch this, to know about us, and to smile with us about our history.
Yeah, and I think just overall too, this speaks about the importance of community. I mean, I think all of us coming out of a pandemic, some people are a little bit, shy of gathering, but we see the importance of community. We see the importance of just being in a space, and not even the church, in a space to just gather, just to, play a game of cards, or just to laugh.
Just to be,
Just to yes.
Yeah. All right, Stacey Holman, always great to have you here. Congratulations again on making Black America.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen. Such a pleasure.
The story of Black Greek letter organizations is an essential part of the Making Black America documentary. African-American fraternities and sororities have maintained their influential role in Black America for more than 100 years. In advance of the documentary, Detroit Public Television and WDET-FM teamed up for a town hall at Wayne State University that focused on the history, the contributions, and the future of the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities. The event was moderated by Mark Lee of the Lee Group. Here are some excerpts.
And let me just start out with a very general question. Discuss, Al, starting with you, the historical context of your organization and how it's evolved over time.
If you think about the time that our fraternity was founded, which is 1906, Cornell University, you got to look at the fact that what the racial climate was at the time. And you had, 7 gentlemen who were trying to complete their classwork and graduate. And if anyone's ever been involved in a class that was tough, where you have to work together to try to finish, that's kind of where we started, where we found how we came about. If you look at it from that standpoint, they were all said, look, we need to support each other. And so we're going to continue to meet, and that's how this whole thing got started with Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Well, Delta Sigma Theta, let's just start with Delta. Delta means change, and with my organization, we're all about change. We were founded on Howard University's campus in 1913, and the first public service act we did was the Women's Selfish March, where black women were not even allowed to march. We had to be in the back of the line. But we were diligent, we were not going to be denied, and we did our first public service act. So Delta means change, and we will continue to be that light for those that are voiceless and those that do not have the opportunity to stand up for themselves. So we are all about public service and social justice.
And Michael, let's talk about the great fraternity of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yeah, Kappa Alpha Psi, it's a college fraternity comprised of undergraduates and alumni chapters on major campuses and major cities throughout the country. It was a vision and a dream of our revered founder, Elder Watson Diggs, and 9 others. They came together on the night of January 5th, 1911 on the campus of Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, to form, this fraternity in which we now, members of the fraternity, I should say, enjoy, the fruit of the tree, that they planted, for us. So we're truly, truly blessed.
Yeah, and let's look at the challenges going back over 100 years. 100 years ago, there were certain challenges. You talk about voting and other challenges. How have those challenges evolved to where we are today? So in other words, look at the challenges today and how the organizations really adapted to those changes and challenges that we're currently confronting.
Well, for one thing, I'm not sure there's been that much change. we were certainly working to get people to the polls then, and we're certainly doing it now. And so now, for different reasons, we have the ability to vote these days, but we're just not voting. And so we have worked hard in this fraternity, at least, and I know, let's just say in general, all the Divine Nine organizations have worked on similar things to register our people to vote, give them the information they need, and get them to the polls. It's quite simple. We're standing on the shoulders of people who actually died so that we can do that. And so we are doing our best to continue on that legacy that was set back then, but the challenges are in some ways not all that different, especially when you look at the climate right now.
Jump right in, Katrina, from your perspective. I
concur with Alvin. When you think about, it's like history is repeating itself. So you think about what happened with Roe versus Wade. We're back to that fight again, a woman's right to choose. So now that was way back when, but to this day, we're still fighting that same fight along with voter suppression. They're changing the rules for us to vote. What are the requirements, registration, and the biggest thing that I think all of us do with the Divine Nine is voter education. And that should always be in the forefront.
And Mike, from your perspective, from the Kappa perspective, again, challenges 100 years ago to where we are today, how has it evolved?
Yeah, we've made great strides over the years. Nevertheless, what happened then is happening again today, as Katrina said. Poverty, education, I would say healthcare, educational needs. Those things, still exist. So we definitely need to step up our game, to address those. And I must say that earlier this year, the Kappas working with the Divine Nine, we partnered up and collaborated and went up to Lansing, Michigan, to meet with the legislators, to talk about the issues that are common to us, in which we really, when we met with the legislators, we focused on, voting rights, but then we agreed that we would get back together so that we could make sure we get folks out to the polls to vote this November.
One of the founding principles is focus on the community. But we've heard and we know there's so many challenges confronting the Black community today. So from your perspective, Marquise, let's start with you. What are the top issues that your organization is focusing on right now?
I think within Omega Psi Phi, we, like many other organizations, want to make the strongest impact with our youth growing up. So in order to do that, we focus on reclamation and retention, retaining our members, reclaiming members that aren't currently active in order to make a stronger impact on the programming that we have. We have an effort where we call it fatherhood and mentoring. And that is one of our focused areas where we want to bring along the young men and women in the community in order to ensure that they have the tools that they need to continue to enhance their lives. So overall, just galvanizing our own brotherhood is what we really want to focus on, and we have programs to do that. Each of our chapters throughout the country, internationally, yearly, we focus on bringing members back in, showing them what programs that they can get involved with, and making that greater impact together.
Dr. Robinson asked the same question for the AKAs. I mean, the top issues that you see today.
The top issues for AKAs, all right. We're looking for women's health issues and protecting the women from breast cancer. And to do that, we've had the mobile unit, mammography unit, that we've taken over 150,000 women have benefited from that, no cost to them. We also focus on education, and we look at the young children, the middle schoolers, and the high schoolers, and of course the college graduates. We have many programs together to help them make that transition to other levels. But in the Black community, economic management is a big problem with a lot of our families. So we have programs to help them become more literate as far as budgeting, financing, accessing funds that they can get, and we help them to make that transition, applying for loans, things like that.
Yeah, Lauren, let's give you an opportunity to respond to the question.
Well, Sigma Gamma Rho, we do have like 5 programs that we really focus on throughout the year. We just did a walk with St. Jude. We have a partnership with them. But one of our biggest things that we've been focusing on for about the last 10 years or so is Project Swim 1922, which is a partnership with USA Swimming, where we teach young African American kids how to swim, but providing them free swimming lessons so that we can lower the numbers of the accidental death rate by drowning.
When you talk to young people today about fraternities and sororities, what's important to them? I remember when I was being recruited way back in the day, and I knew what was communicated to me, and 43 years later, we still keep in touch. The guys I cross with, we do a Zoom every Sunday night. But my point is, what are young people, what are their expectations? I'm gonna start with you, Paul. What are their expectations today? What are they looking for today that makes them connect with the organization?
Great question. So as a leader, what I've seen is a lot of them are looking for a safe space. A lot of them are coming from families that may not be what I grew up in, a 2-family household where I had brothers and sisters. You have some people looking for outlets. You have some people who are looking for like minds. So you have those things is where the kind of conversation kind of starts. And then from there, again, it's just being relevant in the community, showing them that there are people who are Black, who are educated, who have 2 colors and 3 letters and are still doing things in their community to remain relevant and visible.
And Leslie, as we come back over to you again, same question about what are young people looking for? I know your organization is reaching out to young people. You're trying to certainly touch them and feel them, so to speak. What are they looking for?
From my perspective, I think those young people are looking for inclusion. They want to be included in the organization and feel as if they are welcome. In addition to that, they are also looking for someone that will help them grow and develop and get to the next level of their career as to what they are trying to pursue. So it's all about connecting them to resources as you grow and develop them. In addition to that, with those young people that are coming from homes that have Divine 9 structure or exposure in it, they want to be a part of that legacy that lives on. And for those who are not part of a legacy family where they are exposed to the Divine 9s and they only know about it when they hit a college campus, then they are looking for, how can I make this work for me? How can I now gain those letters, gain the respect, be a part of the organization, go out and do community service where I feel valued, because that's what it's all about, And how am I going to make a difference? So often we tell young people, don't ask me questions, sit down, stay here, you haven't learned enough. I promise you, generation millennials and generation Zers, they don't want to hear that. They want to be given an opportunity where they are challenged, and an opportunity where they can show their skills and they can say, I did this. Yes, I aligned myself with my brothers and sisters of the D9, but they gave me an opportunity. They gave me a voice, a positive voice.
That's going to do it for us this week. You can find out more about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.